Welcome into 11 Personnel, your favorite Kentucky football podcast on the World Wide Web. I'm Nick Roush. He's Adam Malekit, and we're presented by our good friends at Monticello Bank. It is cold outside, uh, but balmy, some are saying, in the mid-20s like it. I'm not saying that. I'm just really regretting that this space heater, that I don't have two of them because it is very chilly in my office. How are you holding up on this January Thursday afternoon?
I mean, today feels like a sunny day in paradise compared to yesterday.
Yesterday
Like,
was the hurts your
I
lungs
walked
when you breathe
outside, I
in too
was like,
deep.
man, it feels a little toasty out here this morning. It's compared
Get
to
along.
the 5 degrees we had yesterday when I
Get.
started the car.
Oh, you got the garage though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, see that's nice. And we have at least one vehicle in the garage, but the one downside to doing the garage can't do the remote start. So eh, eh, trying to balance it all out. But yeah, we're coming at you live at 3 p.m. on a Thursday. That I know that ideally you do these at night, but here's the thing, folks. It's springtime. I don't know about you, but I'm watching college basketball on at nights, and we've got other things going on. So this just feels like a nice little time slot Thursday afternoon around 3 or 4 o'clock to be doing it. So just keep this as your regularly scheduled 11 personnel moving forward. Luckett, have you been enjoying the SEC hoops each night? Because I was locked in last night. I felt like a college basketball fiend watching all those games.
I have been, and I have been pretty locked in, but last night, fatigue got to me.
Oh
I think
no, not
the
last night. Of
I
all
think
the
the rock
nights.
fight. I think the rock fight. Well, there's two rock fights really with A&M
Yeah.
Ole Miss, and I think that those both got to me. Because I went upstairs, I think a little after halftime, and then I fell asleep when both had about. I think it was Ole Miss had about 5 minutes left, and Arkansas had like 9 or 10. I conked out, and then I looked. I was like, oh, the teams I thought were gonna win lost both of those games. Funny how
Yeah.
that worked out.
Right at the wire too. Right? We had three SEC games and all three. I like that the SEC is good at basketball. Not to do the chest puffed out. We're a basketball conference now, or any of that stuff. But college basketball, like what makes football so easy for all of us to consume and enjoy is it's just easy to wrap our heads around. It's one day a week, maybe two or three. They get sprinkled throughout, but it's weekly. You know the conferences, you know the teams. Um, it's not as much to keep up with. That can be difficult with college basketball, right? Like I don't know about how Butler's doing this year, or like St. John's, like Rick Pitino. Okay, I'll watch Rick Pitino for a minute, but like doing the casual college basketball, I just think there's so much to it that it's hard to keep up with everything happening, which is why it's so convenient that the SEC is just really good this year because when I turn it on, I kind of know what I'm going to get, right? Like USC and Nebraska ball were the other game in my quad box. They don't have the Asian 3-point shooter from Nebraska anymore. I guess Musselman's at USC, but I don't know if those teams are any good. I have no barometer, but
You
just
won't. They
having
won't be in the tournament, so
yeah, like just having the SEC to be like, all right, any given night, it's the shot making might not be great, but it's probably going to be a close game between an NCAA tournament team. Like I can watch this, so it's made my transition to college basketball a little bit quicker than normal.
yeah, it's just they're just the best league this year, so you're getting more high quality games, which goes against everything we were uh we were raised by in our SEC um, beginnings. Started following Kentucky basketball.
Even
Look, even
SEC
SEC
Mike,
Mike.
he's even
Wow.
watching SEC
Well,
basketball.
he's so depressed that the Big Ten is the best conference now in football that he's coming over the basketball side. Like he just can't take it anymore. Him and Paul have to switch to basketball to scream their supremacy.
We need to beat those bastards in basketball. I can't stand losing to them in football. And this might have been a softer intro into the football talk because we did spend 3.5 hours the other night talking during the national championship. Hope you enjoyed some of that watch along during the title game. We talked a little bit about the Cats. We're going to talk more about the Cats today, where they've reported some signings, and there's some other stuff happening. There's some moving parts on the recruiting front, and we have some projected depth charts as well. But I got to start by telling you about our good friends at Monticello Bank, where you can get your HELOC on. That's right. Go ahead. Thinking about doing something big this year before the prices of things get too terribly crazy, because they might. Go ahead and take advantage of that home court advantage with Monticello Bank's HELOC special. Use the equity you've built in your home to finance some special projects, home improvements, whether you got to do your garage up big, put that deck in, or maybe a pool this summer. I know if you want to get a pool in, the time to start planning is actually probably already passed. But whatever you got to do to get that pool in this summer, use Monticello Bank to take advantage of that equity you built in there in your home. Check out their HELOC special. Visit them at nbcbank.com. They've got 20 locations in 14 counties across Kentucky. They're just right around the corner, so hurry and speak with one of our mortgage lenders about this limited time HELOC special offer today. Monticello Bank, nbcbank.com, where people matter. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Monticello Bank, the proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. Look at the signings were, of all the transfer portal players, were almost officially official. I think they're still waiting for True Edwards to get all of his ducks in a row. That was the only player that didn't get released today. But the roster's set. We're moving forward, and that means we've got our first projected depth chart. And I love it when we're the first. And it was so great when I saw an Adam Luckett KSR plus depth chart about the offense, just beating everybody else to the punch. I mean, because if you're not first, you're last, and you were first to the punch. And I think big picture wise, you go, huh? That's a lot of moving. It's a lot of new parts. There's not a whole lot of guys that are on this depth chart a year ago. That's the biggest thing. You can kind of like maybe some more specific pieces, but big picture, well, offensively, you're just, oh wow. If there's 40 new players on the roster, it feels like a lot of them are on the offensive side of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I think right now, per how I have it, 11 personnel, 7 first-year transfers would be starting on your football team. Then you'd have 2 second-year transfers in Jalen Farmer and Jamari Macklin. So your transfer offense is what you are.
Leaving everybody except the tight end position. That's it.
And yeah, Jamari and Wilcox I had as starting over Dowdell, but there's a chance, right? So yeah, that's where they're at. The story of this team, or this offense specifically, will be about this transfer class. What does the offensive line give them? What do the receivers give them? And how does Dante Dowdell help the offense? And what kind of quarterback play can Zach Calzada give you? Like when we get to the Sunday after Thanksgiving, those will be what determines the season in a lot of ways. Offensively, it's just how all these transfers that you added came together.
Particularly in the short yardage situations, the third down, the winning time, which was losing time more times than not for the Kentucky football program last year. I lost track of how many games in a row they got down to the 2-yard line and didn't score points. That's why you go get the big old hogs in the trenches. That's why you go get Dowdell, which you had a film room piece on him today. And I know, we watch these guys when they're recruiting them, but you don't feel like it's kind of it's a quick glance sort of deal. Did you learn anything more about Dowdell by taking a deeper look into his game?
Yeah, and that's the idea of going back now when we have more time, is to kind of dig in. I think with Dante Dowdell, the tackle breaking is a little worrisome. There's not much open field, I would say, wiggle, but you kind of watch him game by game. He got better. He started breaking more tackles as the season went on. Probably his 4 best games came like the 4 last games of the year against USC, UCLA, Wisconsin, Ohio State. But where his real value was third and short, red zone. That's
Mhm.
where he did his damage, and that's where he brought value to Nebraska's offense last year. To me, Nick, he he almost feels like an addition. Hey, analytics team. Hey, our nerds up here on the computer. Find us the best short yardage back we can find. Find us a guy who's good at these two things, and he would have been the best, one of the better in the country among players third and short in the red zone. So I think from that, if you look at it through that prism, it actually I think makes a lot of sense why you would add him. Now I don't know if you want him being a. I don't think you want him being a total bell cow. I definitely think it's a 1-2 punch situation with Jamari and
Mhm.
Wilcox, but I think he complements Wilcox well. I think you wish there was more tackle breaking, some more elusiveness in the open field. But he's good, or he's been very productive at the things Kentucky was not productive at
Mhm.
last year.
Go fix this.
Yeah.
I I'm still fascinated to just see what they can get from that position, and can you be successful without a bell cow? Because Mark Stoops never has, right? And that's I think the biggest concern, at least I have, just with running back. Period, is what does a Mark Stoops offense look like when you can't just hand the guy a ball 20 times a game and he gets you 120 yards? You know that's a big question to answer this year, but I do like Zach Calzada quite a bit. And as we said previously, they're not abandoning the pro style attack. They're not cutting off their nose to spite their face. There is still going to be the passing game is still going to be a big part of this. So, you know, uh,
Yeah, this is not going to be a run at 50 times.
right, right.
But they're going to, they're not, the passing game isn't going to lead the way, but they are going to make a commitment to having a true balanced offense, and they're going to throw the football. They got all those receivers for a reason.
Uh, on the other side of the line of scrimmage on defense, the the defensive line, you say, okay, this feels pretty solid. I think with a lot of people, like it, there's just going to be some trepidation in general after you saw you saw the quit last year, for the lack of a better term, right? We'll just put it that way. So, but there are reasons to think, okay, they're pretty good up in the trenches. I Teron Nichols, he showed a lot as a true freshman. If JQ Hardaway can be Ole Miss JQ Hardaway on a consistent basis, if DJ Waller can come along, okay, like okay, I can maybe see something here, but there's a lot of guys where it's just the flash. We just know it's just the potential, and that can be scary. That can be really scary.
Yeah, I'll open this up to point out, like, offensively, there was all this change. And we're talking about all of this change. First time they've had OC, OL coach continuity since Eddie Gran, John
Mm-hmm.
Schlarman. Where defensively, they have that continuity. Brad White got here in 2018, and they've been a top 40 defense each year in ESPN's SP Plus rankings. They've been top 25. They've been top 15 twice, but they've been top 40 every year. So, like, to me, you almost have to bake that in there. Like, they're probably going to be a top 40 defense again. They might not. They're probably not going to be one of the better units in the SEC, but they're going to be right there, like in the middle, right? Um, and so I think you look at them. They lost 10 of 16 players who played 200 plus snaps last season. So there was a lot of production replaced. A lot of it was in the front seven, Nick, when you look at defensive line and edge. So what did they go out and do? They got 3 defensive line transfers. They got 2 edge transfers. So that's where most of the rebuilding, I think, was done. But because of, I think, some of that continuity, they just have more kind of homegrown players ready to plug into spots. The
I
development has been better because they just have, it's not turning over as much as this offensive staff.
well, and that's we're going to have to see some of that the inside linebacker play, and that's where I think the biggest that and corner that I alluded to, because I know there might have been some quit in that late season rush defense, but without De'Aaron Jackson, I mean, this defense was a shell of itself. So at that spot, your guys are your main tacklers. What's that going to look like? Hell, Rayner was great in coverage in the limited amount we saw him, and I admittedly thought that he was going to use the red shirt to go portaling, like many others have, but he did not. He stuck around. What can he give you? And then Grant Godfrey's this guy that when he was a high school recruit, like you hate throwing him around a first round pick, but that was Jamin Davis, right? This big athlete doesn't really know what he's doing, but turned
I
into
mean,
a
that's
first
who
round pick.
that was had the kind of the recruitment pitch to him.
Yeah. So does the development take over there? Does the development work at cornerback? Because the corner, for me, so much of it in this defense is just how well do these guys eat space? And they've got the guys with the length to eat the space. They've got a guy in Nichols who can be able, like, if you got to get stuck on an island, so be it. Go be Maxwell Harrison's replacement. Like that, it feels right, but it's easier for us to say in January, and it's a different thing for us to actually see it be done.
Yeah, I think when you look at the defense, I kind of like where their defensive line is at, but the questions are kind of in the back or right after the defensive line. Like edge depth. They've got 3 outside linebackers who have played football. Cameron Old, Sam Green, and Steven Souls. After that, it's like you don't really have many bodies there. Off-ball linebacker, I think they have 2 guys that they feel pretty good about, maybe 3 with Alex Afari. David Rayner's played well when he's been given opportunities. You grab Landon Watson from Marshall. Afari's played some for you. But depth-wise, Nick, that's a position where you lose a guy or 2. It's just a high attrition position, typically. So where you at depth-wise, you're going to need one of these young guys, whether it's Grant Godfrey, Devin Smith, Antoine Smith, Quintavious Norman. One of those guys is going to need to step up for you. And then in the secondary, I look at safety depth. Your third safety right now is Cam Dooley, and then Martell's Carter's right there too, I would say. But you only have one more true safety on the roster in Dylan Williams. So depth there is a little... Even if you feel really good about Cam Dooley and Martell's Carter, you're an injury away from being really young and kind of in a tough spot at that position. And then what are you doing at nickel, I think, is a huge question mark. Throwing Jansen Dunn out there. You're going to let Quay Scott play there. Like, where's Quay Scott end up? And then at cornerback, they've got guys that have all played and experience, but they've also pursued corners in the portal after they added Kevis Thomas. So are you still looking for help there? So maybe the spring is a chance. Maybe that's a chance for a guy to secure a spot or 2, and if it doesn't, maybe they go back again. So really, defensively, I think overall, bare bones, are in good position, but they need a few things to happen probably for them to be the best version of themselves. And I think when you look at that, you kind of look in the back end. But up front, I like Josiah Hayes, David Gusta. I like McQueese Grace. I think they're all 3 can be good SEC players. Khalil Saunders has been solid when given opportunities. I'm intrigued by Wyoming transfer Jaden Williams. And then there's some young guys I think could be something. Like if Tavian Gatson can stay healthy, I'd like to see him. Gerard Smith feels like a guy that could be a good player for them this year. Where's Brian Robinson at? And so up front, I feel a little bit better about where they are. They just need some development, I think, to happen here in the back end.
Recruit and develop. They recruited a lot of free agents on the offensive side. Let's see how they're developing the defense. We won't see them for a few months. Yeah, I guess a few months. It'll be March when spring practice rolls around. No official announcement on that. Still TBD. But we did get to see the players in the weight room. You like the blue collar shirts? Like it? Like those?
What do we think? What do we think about that?
Peak is on the road, so I'm producing. I don't know how to pull up the actual visuals of the t-shirts.
Do you have any type of theory?
Oh, I love it. It's speak it into existence. LeVar Ball, right? Like we're going to be blue collar. Damn it, we got to say it now. I don't think they ever stopped saying it.
Were you
But
surprised it was "Don't Panic"? Wasn't "Don't Panic" on the shirts?
nobody panic.
Or nobody panic. Sorry.
I, I I like it though. I like it. I'll buy into it, even if it can be a little cornbally. I feel like the weight room is the place where you should be the most corny. I mean, let's be real. You were around those guys back at X, where you'd have you all had the team shirts, right?
Oh yeah.
Together, everybody achieves more. That was your deal.
Together, everyone achieves more. Yeah.
Yeah, you all. That was your cornball deal. We had teamwork makes the dream work on a basketball practice jersey, I believe. Like that's the place where you can go be corny. So I'm all for maybe a little corny. We're back to being blue collar in the weight room shirts. Fine by me.
Yeah, I think on the football team, everyone has like slogans or theories for the year. So that's really but that's messaging, right?
Yes,
So
it's coming from the top.
you would have to think that it's direct top down alignment. That is that was probably the message in the first, I would say, team meeting. That you see some teams tweet out like the first, they'll show you the first team meeting, like Cal did.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Wilcox's speech, if you want to go look that on Twitter. Some teams show that. But whenever Mark Stoops had his, I'm sure that was a big part of it. Like how many times did Stoops say we got to fix the culture, get this culture
Yeah,
fixed?
that's
I
the
think
two-word culture fixer.
that's part of it, getting back to being that. And so I think that all plays in with it. And then whenever he hears Stoops talks, I'm sure he'll probably say we got to get back to doing the BC work, the blue collar work, being a blue collar football team. And I think part of the reason you do that, like if you kind of break it down, I think it was 10 of their 19 additions in the portal, Nick, were trench players. So like offensive linemen, defensive linemen, or edge players. These are guys that are playing at the line of scrimmage. Blue collar positions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they're trying to rebuild it. Yeah. And reset the culture.
Yeah, the wide receiver culture. We're getting rid of it. We're going back to blue collar, in the trenches, hard work. The one thing I didn't like about the picture, though, is just the reminder that you've got to refigure out who all these guys are, especially without their jersey uniform. You see JQ Hardaway, Caddis, Willie Rod, but
Khalil Saunders was there doing squats.
Yeah. Okay. There's Safari. And then Malachi Wood is pushing a sled. But,
Malachi Wood was on there. Yeah.
It's tough getting to know these guys. But I do think that we'll have some opportunities here in the next 2 or 3 weeks or so to get to speak with all of them, chat with them, throw it up on the YouTube channel, maybe have a little fun.
So, speaking of the portal, Nick, you wrote a column on this.
Oh, I did.
Did Mark Stoops get it? This is it was a good column because it's fascinating. It's like a point of view situation.
Correct.
So which side do you view this through?
Yes. So here is before we get into it, Game Time, best place to get your last minute tickets, gametime.co. Whether you're going to comedy shows, we had a comedian on my radio show today. You can get comedy show tickets there. You can get concert tickts there.
You had Shane Gillis on your radio show?
Did not have Shane Gillis on the radio show. He was way too sad from the Notre Dame loss. But sporting events, going to go watch the Cats at Rupp or the Lady Cats at Historic Memorial Coliseum. I do need to go to Historic Memorial Coliseum. Have not checked it out since it's being redone. You can get there with Game Time. Just put in the promo code KSR. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, gametime.com. That's promo code KSR. $20 off your first purchase at Game Time. And look, it essentially, like I'd been ruminating on this for a while, this idea that Mark Stoops set the tone in the offseason for the fan base with that final comment leaving signing day. Nobody panic. We're going to have a good football team. For me, at that time, in that moment, that was telling people players are entering the portal. You might get a little freaked out. Just don't. Like, we know this is coming. We know that massive roster overhaul is on the way. We have the ducks in a row. We're going to get a good portal class. We're going to have good personnel. Don't No, don't panic when you see Dane Key going to the portal later today, because that's what happened. Dane Key went later that day. I'm not sure if Berrien had been in, but we had always seen like the just basic 3 or 4 go into the portal to that point. 17 more would follow after that. And so for me, I thought that message was clear. Like, hey, we're going to get our portal stuff together and we'll have a good roster in the fall. Because I think that's the biggest when I put the title was Stoops was right. I think they did that. Does that mean they'll have a good football team? No. Do I think they built a good football team? Yes. Like that's the hard part of it all, because there's a lot of fans out there who just don't care at all about what that guy has to say anymore. They just want to see winning football. And a lot of it comes down to they want to see him coach better. They want to see his players play harder. He's had good players that didn't play well. So that's the part where this is hard, because I do believe that Stoops proved people wrong who might have panicked when people into the portal, and I think he got a good portal class. But I don't know if that necessarily answers his entire statement at the end that they're going to have a good football team.
Yeah, I go back to that message, and I just wonder how the majority of fans took it. Like, did they take it as, oh, he's talking about the portal, or the roster building, which I think he was, or did they take it as, oh, don't panic because, we're coming off this right year, we'll be better next year? Because those are two different things. So I think a lot of the Jim Pop fans don't follow it follow it somewhat closely, but not
right.
You're not all the way in. A lot of people probably haven't figured out who's going to start for Kentucky, get quarterback for Kentucky next year.
We had a guy on the board who was begging for Cam Rising. I'm like, dude, they got a quarterback. What are we doing here?
But also, like, for a guy who said he didn't want to make a headline all year, it was kind of an interesting way to end the season.
Well, here's my question: Do you think I don't like doing the grade game, because that's a little just kind of boring and tropey?
Yeah,
but do you think he did a good job in the portal? All things considered, losing 20 players, getting 20 new ones, how would you assess that? Do you think he was right and he got a good football team?
Well, I'll say that to say this. I'm glad he said something there that is going to stick, even if it might blow up in their face. Because it's at least showing it's showing an acknowledgement, I think, of what's going on outside the building, but also showing that, we're back and we're working to, at least they're trying to control some level of the message, at least from my point of view. From the portal aspect, like, I think you got to look at it this, Nick. How many positions are they better at or worse at if you just go through the roster? I think quarterback, they're probably going to be better. Your backups a year older. Your starting quarterback is more proven than your last one was.
Correct.
Tailback, probably a little better.
Yep.
Receiver, I don't think.
Receiver,
it's kind of a push.
Yeah.
It's kind of a push, but I don't think you'll have anybody as good as Dane, but I think you're probably going to be better 2 through 5.
Yep.
Tight end. Yeah.
Yep.
Offensive line, I think you're definitely better.
Correct.
Defensive line, it's but it could have been really bad. Like, you got it to a point where
yes,
I can see that being a good defensive line. Outside linebacker, I think I like it a little bit better. Off-ball linebacker, a little worried about.
Right. It's worse.
Like, you lost 2, I think, draft picks.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens there. Corner, you're not going to be as good without Hairston, but Hairston didn't play most of the year last year.
Yep.
And then you bring a lot of guys back, you have to think you're going to be better there. And then safety, you're the same essentially to me.
Yeah.
So I think you just go down, and as a whole, I think they've gotten better at a lot of positions. And I think the one that really jumps out is offensive line. That is the one position I think where you can say they potentially got a lot better at.
And that was the one thing that fans demanded. That was
Yeah.
we have to fix this, but it's also the hardest to fix because of the nature of the supply and demand that happens in the transfer portal with offensive linemen. And I didn't think they would be able to get 4 guys, right? Like you could
5,
get,
really, yeah.
yeah. I mean, they got 5, but they got 4 starters. And in the past, it was usually like just get one. All right, you got that one. Like that's hard enough. I think the volume of it all was the part that surprised me most from this
Yeah.
transfer portal class.
My grade, if you ask me a grade, B to B plus. I think they addressed a lot of needs. I think if you had a list of personnel boxes, I think they checked pretty much all of them. Offensive line being the big one. I think the star power, like,
Yeah.
did
Not
you
having
get like
Ahmad Hardy, right?
did you add like an all conference guy? That one I'm a little iffy on. Maybe Josh Braun, maybe. But overall, the volume, I think you did a very good job of checking boxes. I like what you did with the defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
So a solid B, where I think you've at least added, I think, stability as a football team. Where I don't think you're going to fall off a cliff now. I think it was possible if you didn't do well, the team could absolutely fell off a cliff next year. Now we'll have to see if they can go win some games that are close in the fourth quarter.
We're holding on to a rope, cliffhanger, Sly Stallone style.
Yeah, but even the Calzada edition, which is going to be one of the bigger talking points throughout the season, you do have to be a little realistic in who they could have got, and you have to consider the price tag and how many other needs they had to fill. This was, I think, for where they were shopping, the tier they were shopping in, that was what they needed to do. They got him in the boat pretty quickly. And this is a guy that's going to be 25 years old during the season next year, and he's played a lot of football. You could see him, like, his year at A&M, you could see him doing that again, flirting with like 60% completions, 19 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. You could project that, and that would be an improvement over what they've had.
And compare it to how they approached this in the past, which I think is something that's commendable, and I think it's something that as often as you compare the end of the Cal era to what Kentucky football fans are going through with Mark Stoops right now, Mark Stoops is at least willing to adjust his strategy. Yes, I know Cal took some transfer portal players. He had to because his high school recruits stunk. His high school recruiting was bad. But Stoops used to be we're gonna overpay for quarterback. I don't know if overpay is the right word, but they were in the market for the high dollar quarterbacks, and they got him. And then they went after power conference players who had potential and had a lot of stars next to their name, and they were great wins in December, but it didn't turn into a lot of wins in the fall. And so they took production over potential. And I don't know if fans are willing to let him have a win, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to say Mark Stoops was right, because I think all things considered, the context of everything, it was a good portal class, and we can tip our cap to him while still saying you still have to prove it to us, right? Like there's still show us that hard fighting team that we've seen in the past that can win within the margins, that did win at Ole Miss last year, that almost beat Georgia last year, that really just kind of fell off the cliff last year.
Yeah, and again, like defensively, there's more of just like a standard and establishment. Like you should I think everyone should have a little bit more faith that they'll probably get to where they need to get to on defense. At least respectably get to a point where they can win football games. The real questions are just on the offense.
Yeah.
They handpicked the starting lineup, essentially.
That's no longer an excuse. One that Stoops alluded to quite often for Bush Hamden, that he was dealt a bad hand. So now you got to pick your players.
They handpicked a starting lineup, so now you got to make it work. Not only that, you've got some gams, old dudes on this team. Calzada be 25. True Edwards turns 24, I believe, in March. Every receiver you got will be in their senior year, where it's senior, redshirt senior, super senior. Jamari Macklin in his 6th year. J.J. Hester in his 6th year. True Edwards in his 7th year. Offensive line, Josh Braun, 6th year. Alex Wolschlager, 6th year. Shizal Pete, 5th year. You just you gotta make it work. And so you got your pieces. Now, that's the real, offense is the real question here. You have stability, you have continuity, whatever word you want to use for that. You just need to make it work. And it's not, they could be the most improved offense in the country, and they might not be a top 25 unit, right? Right. Like with offensive line, they could be the most improved unit in the SEC, and they might be the 8th best line in the SEC. Like, the offensive line just showing improvement is going to help change a lot of things. And then Calzada giving them better quarterback play on a week-to-week basis could change a lot. And so we'll just have to see how it all plays out. But really, offensively, there's no, again, you don't want to, that seems cliche, no excuses, but that's what it feels like. Like, you got your team now. Now you need to go put out a productive product that gets first downs, scores points.
Scoring points.
Can't 2nd and goal at the 1, you end in the end zone, not scoring. They're settling for a field goal or whatever.
Oh man, it's going to be against a challenging schedule, but we don't need to get in that schedule talk right now.
No, you don't. You need to build a solid SEC team that has a solid offense, is good to solid on defense, and then go play your schedule and be consistent, which the level of experience and age you have should allow that to be easier to do. And if you do that over a long schedule, you're going to have opportunities to win football games. Might come down to just how can you execute late in these games.
Whew. We'll find out more. We got a long 8 months to talk about it. Still a long way to go. The offseason's just getting started. Our first technical show since the college football season ended. Did you see the ratings for the college football playoff national?
I did. A little surprised by that.
I'm not, only for the fact that just the lateness of the game of the year. I don't think people were locked in the college football season, it just weird.
Yeah.
Weird. It's January 20th.
People's minds has just gone
Moved
on to
on.
other things.
Right.
Their sports brains have gone to other stuff. Yeah. I think there's an argument to be made to move this season up 2 weeks. Just start it earlier.
I wouldn't be mad at it.
Because you would get a month. It's almost a month without the NFL in your way. You could play games on Sundays if you wanted to for 3 or 4 weeks to start the year. You start the playoffs sooner, and then maybe the Rose Bowl could be your semifinal on New Year's Day every year, and then another bowl could rotate in with the Rose Bowl.
Well, the timing of the semifinal games, the 1-2 right before Wild Card Weekend was awesome, but then those 10 NFL playoff games. It's just we're just into the playoffs now. My brain was just switched off. So they had 22 million viewers, down from 25 a year ago for that Michigan national championship. Back-to-back Big Ten teams winning the.
And I feel like the Michigan-Washington was kind of one of the more underhyped national championship games.
Yeah, you had the Connor Stallion stuff still following them, and Harbaugh trying to get his first one that had a lot of, there were some people just pulling against Michigan, but I'm with you there. So that was a little surprising to see that. I'm trying to think of some other football topics before we get into the championship weekend preview, because I did want to take a quick gander at that. Coaches on the road. Brad White flew out to California to recruit an edge. That's something.
Yeah. Do you think he got stuck in Atlanta?
I am looking forward to Scott Van Pelt's rant about it. I haven't seen it yet, but I love that he knows, like he has the self awareness to know how douchey you are to be a sports journalist ranting about airport travel, but he still did it anyway. That's how bad it was, and that's how bad. I mean, it was Mike Golick Jr. said he was there for 13 hours at the Atlanta airport.
Yeah, I guess Van Pelt lives in D.C.
Uh huh.
What's the Atlanta to D.C. drive?
Well, I mean, it's probably like 10, my guess. Rough guesstimate.
Yeah, 10. I just
Yeah.
got a rental. Give me a car. Get me out of here.
I will say though, flying to St. Pete and doing the being in South Florida in 2 hours, and it was just a direct flight. That was because normally I'm Mister Get a rental, just drive wherever. You don't have to mess with the flights. That was
If you
kind of
can
nice.
direct is great if you can get it, but it's hard, come where we live, it's hard to get in a lot of
Yeah.
places.
Right. Right.
Direct. We fly to see Taylor's my in-laws a lot. Can't fly direct to Jacksonville. You just can't.
No.
Like we're flying down there in February. We're taking the boys on the airplane, and I'm already stressing about it.
Oh man. Yeah.
Because you just have to stop. Because you can fly direct. It's not bad at all. Like boom, you're there. 2 hours on a plane. It's the worst part is the layover. Like you got to board a plane, take off, and then you got to unload, and then do the whole boarding process again, do the whole taking off again, and do the whole landing again. It's just like, geez, I just want to be there. That's the worst part.
Oh, well, hopefully Brad didn't get stuck in LA. Receivers coach was in Florida, El Damian Washington with he was with somebody too. Who else was down there?
Chris Collins was in that area.
Yeah, he was in that neck of the woods. You had Wolford and Merrow in Ohio. So coaches, they're on the ground recruiting. They had a lot of players in here last weekend. I believe it will still be an open period for the next Saturday home game, or was that the only?
Yes, I think it will. I think they're going to have probably another junior day there for that Arkansas game that weekend.
That'll be a big one. That'll be a big one. We got two big games on Sunday in the NFL, and you can get on the action with the best daily fantasy sports app out there, and that's Prize Picks, where whether it's the Spurs playing in Paris in the middle of the day or it's the championship games in the NFL, tennis, whatever it may be, you choose your sport, you choose your square, you go more or less, string them together to win big with Prize Picks. And I believe they have a Jaden Daniels special. I need to pull this app out really quick for the NFC Championship game. Jaden Daniels, he's been absolutely in fuego. But that's what's great about Prize Picks. They have deals all the time where it's discounted squares. So LeBron James is his points instead of 22 and a half, only 16 and a half against the Boston Celtics. A little flash deal over at Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app out there. And when you use promo code KSR when you sign up, bet $5. Use $5. They'll get $50 in Prize Picks bucks in your account. That's promo code KSR. Play $5, get $50 in Prize Picks bucks in your account when you use promo code KSR. Terms apply. PrizePicks.com and the Prize Picks app. Bucket. Yeah, it is only a half passing yard for Jaden Daniels. So there's a square to add to your play when you play Prize Picks. Is it bad that I kind of think that things are just going to be chalky? I hate to be such a putz about it, but it feels chalky. I mean, what makes you think that this is the Bills team that's going to beat Patrick Mahomes? When they've never been, when all the times they've had them at home and they couldn't beat them, and this is the Josh Allen team that's going to do it. I think he's going to eventually do it, but this one, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't think so, Tim.
But like, why would be my question?
Because I think, yes, they've gotten their run game going, but I just don't. I don't trust Josh Allen to just be a superhero and throw it to rookie Keon Coleman. I mean,
Yeah, but
is Khalil Shakir that good?
How many points you think he needs? That's what you need to ask yourself. This is not Kansas City with Tyreek
I
and
know, but
younger Kelsey.
I still think they're going to score 24 points. I don't. I know Matt Milano made a big play last week, but he's a shell of what he used to be. And I know the Bills' defense is better. I just respect the Chiefs' defense so much that I think it's going to be hard for him to get to 20 plus, 24 points.
See,
Because I think
I think
I think it's a race to like 24.
I think the Bills will get to 24. My question is, can the Chiefs get there? History says don't bet against them, but I mean they've got offensive issues. They got offensive line issues. You know, we'll see. Like the last week was just perfect example of Chiefs nonsense in a lot of ways. But they find ways to get it done. But the Bills did kind of handle them in the one game. They needed the Allen run at the end, but they were winning that entire game against Kansas City when they met in the regular season. I don't know. I'm cheering for I want the Bills Washington in a Super Bowl again, so we can relive the kick the guy missed. Pretty sure.
Oh yeah,
That's what I'm cheering for.
Scott Norwood.
Yeah, that would be fun. Those two fan bases in New Orleans, they would have like the time of their life. Finally getting for both of them getting back to the Super Bowl. So we'll see. I mean, the one interesting thing is like Kansas City and Philly are kind of the two banged up teams in this game. To me, I think Joe Tooney, Kansas City's left guard, is having to play left tackle. Eagles, like Jalen Hurts, has looked bad in these two playoff games. And so can they still survive?
Especially when Jane Daniels has been so good, and it's the quarterback play matters so much, right? Matters so much. And even though Jalen Hurts has been incredible in a Super Bowl before, he's clearly the worst quarterback in this matchup,
If he gets healthy and looks like normal Jalen Hurts, I don't see them losing this game. They have the better defense. They just have the better team all the way around.
Jalen Carter's play to end that game was, God, that guy. What a badass.
Yeah.
Turns out he's been pretty good at football for a while.
Just Saquon. I mean, just cheat code. He gets two. Yeah. I mean, against the Rams, he's just ran for 3 miles this year. Him getting the Super Bowl with the Eagles would be a fun story. Jaden Daniels obviously getting there. I mean, the Chiefs going for the first ever three-peat would. Regardless, we're going to get a fun Super Bowl, but you do have to worry about the Bills in the fourth quarter in that game, just the ghost of it, right? Like, can we close this out?
Well, and I know it's kind of an old saying, but just there's never not enough time for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that divisional game a few years ago in Buffalo, they scored 4 touchdowns total in 28 seconds or something like that. Something ridiculous.
that was the shootout.
That was ridiculous.
Right before they lost to the Bengals. That was in divisional. Yeah. But this is the first time they've played an AFC championship since the COVID team. And that game was close, and then the Chiefs, I think, had a big fourth quarter. And they lost the Bucks that year.
I'm excited. I'm a little, is nervous the right word? No.
Oh, I already feel awful for the Buffalo fans. No matter how the game plays out, they're going to be in the torture chamber for. There is honestly, that is probably being in the AFC Championship game and like living play to play. That's probably the worst I've ever felt as a fan. Every snap you just want to throw up. I mean, because a lot of this NFL, like just getting to the Super Bowl is a big deal, right? It's like making the Final Four.
Right.
Like you make the Final Four, it's a big deal. Like getting to the Super Bowl, it's a big deal. You buy the stuff with the Lombardi trophy on it. Like you get the posters from it. It's just a big deal if your team's in the Super Bowl. But these games, it's like to me they're like like compare it to my college basketball fandom, they're a lot like Elite Eight games. Elite Eight games are the worst. Like
Yeah.
they are the absolute worst. The
Dude, that
whole
Notre
time
Dame game, oh god, that was
your stomach's
awful.
in stomachs and knots the whole time. It's the least enjoyable sporting experience, and that's what your team being in a championship game like this is, especially if you've been tormented like the Bills have, and especially if it's against a team that has tormented you for years. No matter what the score is, how close it is, who has the ball, and it's specifically if it's like it's coming down the wire and they have the ball or Mahomes has the ball, I feel for him. That sucks. It sucks so bad. And
I,
that's what it's going to come down to too. And sitting there watching it, it's like, why am I even watching this? I should just turn
well,
it on at 8:30, and then that's when the game will be decided.
and that was like a couple of years back when I it was the year that they just came from behind in every single game. I can't imagine a worse feeling than being up 17-3 and you're the Buffalo Bills, goes in the fourth quarter and the Chiefs got the ball and you just know, well, this lead can be gone in an instant, right? Like that. And it might play out on Sunday. I'm not looking forward to hearing more Tom Brady though. People are being too nice to him. He sucks so bad at that job. It's so boring. I don't know. Get the hell out of here, Tom. Get the hell out of here, Tom.
Yeah, part of the good thing about Red Zone is you don't really hear.
Mm-hmm.
Like the really first time I've heard him is
I
like here
know. And
recently.
he's so bad.
He's just fine. He's just kind of average. Like
Yep.
nothing special.
Doesn't say anything. So it's so fun. I don't know. I'm looking forward to this weekend though. Last weekend with multiple weekends of games of football. Should be fun. Things will slow down. But we'll Super Bowl NOLA. Hopefully the snow's all gone by the time all the guys got to start flying in down there in the Big Easy. I would love to be down there when that's happening. It'd be a good time. But we've had a good time hanging out today. I thought our conversation on the Mark Stoops was great in the transfer portal. So yeah, maybe we'll clip that up. We'll get that out there some more. Let the people
I'm
know.
sure we'll have the same conversation 5 more times when the
Can't
season
wait.
gets here.
Can't wait for it. We aren't going anywhere. We'll see you next Thursday on 11 Personnel.